Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Grimion. I'm a senior account executive here at Davenport Group. Really looking forward to talking with you today, talking with my good friend Brian Moran about where should I store my data. So really appreciate you jumping on here, spending your Thursday afternoon with us, and we're going to have a really good time and have some really good conversation. While we wait for folks to jump in here, I like to always start these things. If you're a frequent attender of these events, I like to start 'em with kind of this day in history. So this day in history in 1937, what happened? And this is Ultra Geek. I'm counting on my geeks to know here. So put your answers in the chat or unmute yourself and answer it up. Anybody? Oh, all right, I'll give this one. So The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien was first published. So very big book there. Second one, what happened on this day in 1981? Anybody?
Hey, Brian, Ben, Madeline.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Anybody? Good, good. Anybody got any answers? Dennis Atkins got nothing. So the Senate actually confirmed the nomination of Sandra Day O'Connor. She was the first female justice of the Supreme Court. And then I got one more before we jump in here. So this day on September 21st, 1970. Anybody? Any football fans out there?
So it's not Watergate.
It was a Monday night.
Not Apollo 13.
Oh yeah, good job, Eric. First Monday night football game. So awesome, awesome. Well, great. We'll get started. Again, really appreciate you all jumping on here. We'll still have some people joining. We've got a big crowd here today, so everybody wants to know where to store their data, which is great to hear, and we're here to help you with that. So today our speakers are going to be myself, Ben Grimion. I'm a senior account executive here at Davenport Group. I cover our South Central territory. Been here for about 10 years. Heck, it's been that long. But been in the technology industry for over 20 years now. And I've got my good friend, Brian Moran. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, so Brian Moran, I am a pre-sales engineer at Davenport Group. I first joined the company about 6.5 years ago, but it's coming up, I think, on 17 years or so in kind of solution design type roles within the Dell and EMC family.
Yeah. So we'll be talking with you today, but at the end of our presentation, we're going to have a great presentation and a little bit of fun with our good friend, Chef Tregay Frazier. You may know her from the Food Network or Tregay's Way. It's on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and she's going to be helping us with the box. If you got your box of virtual experiences with you, she's going to help us set up a charcuterie board for dinner tonight. Really impress your friends, wife, family, whatever. So looking forward to that. So for some folks, it may be your first time to even hear about Davenport Group. And for others, you may have been talking with us for over 10 years. You don't know. So we want to make sure that everybody knows who we are. We are a full-scale IT solution provider. And so what does that mean? And to put it simply, we can help you out with solutions from mouse to the cloud and really anywhere in between. You can see on your screen there where we focus primarily on data center solutions, really anything that sits in that rack, but then we can help out with client machines, software, heck, tons of services because we have certified and experienced engineers really in anything IT related now. And it's been awesome in the 10 years I've been here at Davenport Group, how we've evolved based on customer feedback on, hey, we really like what you did with storage here from us because that's been the core of what we do. And we've had customers ask for more and more capabilities from Davenport Group, and we've been able to grow our company to meet those needs with our customers. So we've got folks all over the country to help you out. We've got folks attending here from all over the country, and we really appreciate your time to listen to us today. We're a Dell Technologies partner, we're a VMware partner, and a Microsoft Gold partner. We have all the engineering resources to help out across the board there. So let's get right into it. We've got a lot to cover today, but I also encourage you to ask questions, participate along the way. I will be manning the chat here, and while me and Brian are talking, so I encourage you to ask questions on the chat. And then also, if you want to just come off mute, we're all used to these virtual conversations now. Feel free to come off mute and ask away. So Brian, why don't we get into it?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And so, yeah, just to reiterate what Ben said, all right, we put these events together like for you. We want to make sure that you're getting, the right information for your business out of these events. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll try to, address them right away. Feel free to come off mute. It's, more fun when these are interactive. So just to kick things off, there are a lot of options these days when it comes to where and how to store and protect your data. That's what we're talking about today. And so this afternoon, we're going to dive into these options. We're going to look at kind of the benefits and considerations of using both on-prem hardware, maybe hosted hardware, as well as a few different like as a service options.
And so the way that we have this broken down is three different storage landscapes for your data. You have on-premises, or what we all say on-prem, co-locations or colo, and then also public cloud or just cloud. The purpose of this webinar is to start the conversation of where you should move your different workloads and data types, because we know all of your workloads and needs are completely different from each other. And so again, I recommend asking questions along the way, because me and Brian are here to just help guide this conversation. And so I recommend you ask questions, heck, make comments along the way of experiences you've had. And so let's jump right into this conversation.
So I really like Tim's avatar, and I want to figure out how to do that after the meeting. All right, so to start off, really everyone is familiar with the idea of having an on-prem data center, right? I mean, there's plenty of benefits to keeping and maintaining physical hardware at your own site. Just to, two of the reasons that I see a lot of folks decide to go ahead and keep equipment on-prem are, local performance, and then also total cost of ownership. So really, when you decide to have an on-prem solution, you get to control every aspect of the environment, right? So like hardware solutions are all spec'd according to like your specific use case and need. And then, if you have a return to office, or, if your employees are on site, network latency is kept to an absolute minimum compared to, hosted hardware at a colo across town, across state, or in a public cloud. And then also, whenever that equipment is kept in a facility that your company already owns, you don't have additional ongoing costs like rack space, rental fees, or just usage costs like you might find in other models.
Yeah, and I know I have a specific customer that was running a thing called Tyler Munis, and probably we have some folks on here that run that, but it's an ERP that I like to call this one out, because they were running Tyler Munis in the cloud in a hosted provider, and they were able to actually bring that back on-prem, which resulted in way lower latency, so faster reporting, and they're also able to define the actual hardware that it was living on. So they weren't able to do that with the cloud provider. They were able to actually say, hey, we want to run this on all flash. And I believe they're also able to do some more customizations of the database that actually improve some things with the application. And so we were able to do all this at a fraction of the price they were paying for that hosted provider. And they were also able to achieve like a return on investment, I think it was crazy, like 6 months of what they were paying the hosted provider and what they purchased this for. And so just bringing all that back made a lot more sense than just having it as something as an infrastructure as a service and having it on-prem.
But on the flip side of that, there's other things to keep in mind, right? Like, so we start off pros and cons, but not necessarily con. It's just a consideration to keeping your environment on site, right? And so one of those costs is just physical space, right? So I was working with a hospital a while ago at this point, but they were looking at this beautiful, very nice data center that they had on premises, and they did some cost benefit analysis and decided that it would actually be more beneficial for them to move that to a co-location facility and turn that data center into just more bed space, right? So they were able to expand healthcare services instead of keeping that hardware on prem. I also work with customers that are in just like older facilities, right? Like I think one of our city government customers, they're in a building that's like over 150 years old, and I don't think they're even allowed to make improvements to the building because of like a historical registry type situation, right? And so they can't even bring in like the proper power and cooling to even operate a lot of the equipment that's out there these days. And then managing hardware. When it comes to managing hardware, a lot of times I hear the phrase that people, want to get out of the data center business. And this doesn't necessarily mean that they want to, get rid of their data center, right? I mean, you still have to have your data somewhere. You still have to, run these applications somewhere. And there are plenty of benefits to keeping that data center on-prem. So when I hear the phrase, get out of the data center business, sometimes all that means is, leaders just don't want their teams spending time on things like managing infrastructure stacks, right? Like managing the hardware. It's better for, IT administrators to spend their time doing other value-added services, right? Like improving performance of applications or increasing uptime with for an application. So Davenport Group has developed a relatively new offering called Davenport Group Care, which I will talk about in detail here a little bit later. But that can, with this offer, businesses can still maintain on-premises data center, so have all the benefits along with that, but without having to spend the time that's already constrained maintaining just the underlying hardware. Okay, excuse me. So Davenport Group partners with Dell Technologies, right? So we're a Dell Titanium partner, like Ben mentioned. But the reason we do is Dell offers the best of breed technology solutions, and we really think and believe that Dell has the most complete end-to-end portfolio from any single hardware manufacturer, right? So end-to-end portfolio of enterprise solutions. So when it comes to the different types of infrastructure stacks, there's really two different options that I'm going to talk about. On the slide right now, you see like a traditional 3-tier architecture. And here on the next slide, I'm going to look at kind of hyper-converged infrastructure. Dell Technologies offers both. And so when it comes to 3-tier architectures, we're looking at 3 separate tiers of infrastructure, right? There's servers, fabric switching, and storage. Dell has, I'm showing a 1U and a 2U server. Dell also, they have like blades and ruggedized edge, purpose-built servers for like edge or kind of more extreme environments. But, of course, all the latest Intel and AMD offerings, all of the NVIDIA GPU. So really any size server to meet even the most demanding workloads that you can throw at these servers today. And then on the storage side, on this slide, so back in 2020, Dell unveiled its newest mid-range platform, which is PowerStore. So PowerStore combines a lot of the capabilities found across mid-range storage solutions they had previously had in their environment. So I'm sure a lot of you on the call today maybe still have EqualLogic or Compellent, or which has been renamed SC. Maybe have Unity or even Extreme.io. So a lot of these technologies that were all on different kind of mid-range storage solutions were brought forward and combined into a single new platform. And I'm not going to get super in depth on the presentation today, but just at a high level, PowerStore is an end-to-end all-flash NVMe SSD storage array. So here in the last 3 years, since launch in 2020, we've helped dozens of clients migrate from existing environments, whether it's they already had something from the Dell portfolio or even something not from Dell, over to PowerStore. And these environments, it is all NVMe SSD storage array, But these environments, they start off or they can be very small to just a handful of terabytes, and we've deployed systems that are over 500 terabytes, right? So that 500 terabyte system I'm thinking of, I mean, this customer had almost 2 full racks of spinning disk, and we consolidated that onto a single 2U platform. And the way that we did that is with Dell Technologies data reduction guarantee. So using that guarantee, so data reduction, think deduplication and compression. So actual written guarantee, a lot of clients have been able to migrate to PowerStore, this all flash solution coming from hybrid platforms at a comparable cost to what they had previously.
Yeah, and Brian, and in fact, I don't even know if you know this yet, but you're presenting on a storage success stories we've had webinar that it's actually coming up on October 26th. Well, we will be hosting a panel of customers to go over their experiences with PowerStore and working with Davenport Group. So I love, we love just connecting customers with customers. So I encourage you all to attend that when you see the invite come into your inbox. Love to see you on that webinar as well.
Okay, so last slide had 3 separate tiers of storage. Here we're going to talk about hyperconverged infrastructure, or HCI. So HCI, I mean, it's not a new concept. It's been on the market for over 10 years, right? I mean, different technology manufacturers have had different HCI platforms, but the concept HCI is been out for more than 10 years. But I still talk to folks on a weekly basis that are just unfamiliar with HCI. I was on the phone with someone earlier this week, and the environment that they had was coming up on the end of a 7-year refresh cycle, right? And so they really hadn't even looked at what hardware options were available in the last 7 years. And HCI, I'd say, has really taken off in the last 3, 4, 5 years. It is really when it's become kind of more mainstream. So anyways, what is it? So previously, you had servers, network, storage as 3 separate, disparate components, each requiring, its own management interface, its own support contract, and you had to kind of piece together those different solutions. Here with HCI, there's just a single tier of servers with local disk, and then they run some sort of software-defined storage policy that mirrors and stripes data across nodes instead of using RAID, right? So there's no RAID on any of these servers, right? So there's no RAID controllers. It's software policy that mirrors data across multiple nodes. So if you lose a drive or if you lose an entire node, your data is still protected, your workloads are still online. It's just it's completely different, way of thinking about protecting your data compared to RAID you would have in a server or even like a SAN storage array. And so the major benefit is simplified management. All right, so instead of having those 3 separate pieces that each need to be logged into and updated and managed separately, HCI typically has just a single element manager to interact with, right? So maybe you're just logging into like a Microsoft console or a VMware console at like vCenter, and that's it. That's the only interface you have to interact with. And because these are like single tier appliances, maintenance and just managing these over the life is greatly simplified. So, I know the bezels are a little hard to read. It's probably super small on your screen, but here I'm actually showing 2 different HCI platforms. So Dell has the Azure Stack HCI nodes. So those are a Microsoft solution that runs Azure Stack HCI OS, or it can run just normal Hyper-V with S2D. And so within Davenport Group, most of the folks that we work with that have deployed Azure Stack nodes are actually still just running Hyper-V, but with S2D. And S2D is Microsoft's software-defined storage. And then the other one is VxRail. And so VxRail runs VMware vSphere, and then vSAN. And then vSAN has OSA, which has been around since actually 2014. And then the brand new ESA, which came out last year at VMware Evolve, or formerly VMworld. So 2 different architectures, right? 3-tier HCI. And why might someone decide to go with one over the other? A lot of customers like the flexibility that you get with the 3-tier architectures. With this type of design, compute and storage can be scaled independently, right? Because they're not tightly bundled like they are here with HCI. If you need to add a node, you can add a node without necessarily impacting storage, or maybe you can add one drive at a time to your storage array. Whereas with an HCI stack, scaling is typically done linearly, right? So like if you have a 4-node cluster today and you need to scale resources, you're typically adding like a homogeneous node, right? So, your 4-node cluster is now a 5-node cluster. Or if you just need to add storage, it's not like you can just add storage to one node. You're typically adding the same amount of resources to all of the nodes in the cluster. So if you have like a 10-node cluster and you need to add 2 terabytes, you're looking at adding at least, one drive into each of those nodes, right? And so there's a lot of flexibility in 3-tier architectures. There's a lot of simplicity when it comes to HCI. But it's not an either or decision. We work with quite a few folks that have deployed both types of technologies within their environments. For example, they might even be on the phone. I've worked with a company that has a VIA Trail cluster for a lot of their production environment, but then wanted to augment storage for that kind of HCI environment, and so they added PowerStore. So they have most of their VMs run on HCI, just add storage via like PowerStore. Other folks have pretty large 3-tier stacks at their on-premises main location, but then might have like very small 2-node, 3-node, 4-node HCI clusters out at remote sites. And so really, this is why Davenport Group loves to partner with Dell, and it's because regardless of your business requirements and what you're trying to achieve, we can design the best solution to meet any of your customer or any of your company's requirements.
Yeah, and it all really comes down to what your workloads are and what's the right fit. So Brian talked briefly about what to think about when designing both typical data center architectures, a 3-tier architecture or HCI. And our team can collaborate with your team to help you scope out the right architecture for your specific environment. And if you want to look at both and see which one's going to be, most cost effective, we can go that route. A way to start with this collaboration is having you run Live Optics. And so I imagine Live Optics is a familiar term. It's been around for a long, long time, almost as long as I've been around. But it's a free data center analysis tool that can run on your current environment with no impact to your production, because it really just collects the counters that are already being generated by the OS. So think about RAM utilization, hard drive utilization, processor utilization, so forth. This is just a screenshot that we have here, but it generates a fantastic report that we can go over with you and your team to really collaborate together on what all options would make the most sense for your data center needs.
Again, I haven't really kept an eye on the chat just because I'm doing the slides, but
I got it, Brian.
Yeah, if anyone does have a question, please feel free to, like I said before, come off mute or put questions in chat. So just want to make sure that, and I know we have quite a few Davenport Group folks on the call as well. So, if you see something in chat, let's make sure it gets addressed.
Will do.
So, we spent a couple of slides talking about really kind of like application type data or, primary storage, you might like to think, but there's other types of storage that I think are just as critical. So, PowerStore, it's all flash SSD designed for, it is a block and file system. Like it can support block and file protocols, but really I see it most commonly deployed just for block. Whenever you have a large file environment, think like very large NAS, that's where PowerScale comes in. So that's, what I've shown on the left, the scale out file. So PowerScale is a scale out NAS platform. And then on the right, data domain is what I'll be speaking to here in a second. But PowerScale is node based. And so what that means is each node in a cluster has its own network ports, disk, of course, but also storage controller, cache. And so as you, can start small, but as you add nodes to the cluster, you're not just adding capacity like you would if it was just a, like say, 2 controller system with daisy chain drives behind it. So you're not only adding capacity, but you're adding performance, and you scale linearly capacity and performance together. And I just said, clusters can start small, right? So there are like F200 type nodes that have just a few terabytes of capacity. So clusters can start, they can start very small, but can scale up to over 180 petabytes, 180 petabytes in a single file system. And so, with this node-based architecture, newer generation nodes can be added to the cluster, and older generation nodes can be retired out. So think, if you've got a petabyte or a few petabytes of data that's, important data, think about what it would take to migrate that from one platform to another every, 5 to 7 years based on the life cycle of the hardware it's on, right? So with PowerScale, being able to mix and match different generations of nodes, once that initial, call it robocopy migration is done, those time-consuming file migrations are over forever. And then also, the larger the cluster grows, the more space efficient it becomes, right? So I've seen PowerScale systems approach 90% usable capacity compared to raw, right? So think, just to make it easy on me with mental math, 100 terabyte system, 100 terabytes raw, 90 terabytes usable capacity compared to raw, right? So think about a lot of dual controller systems that are based on RAID protection schemes. A lot of times that's 60% usable versus raw. And so, with having such a high usable to raw ratio, it really drives down the cost per gigabyte. A while ago, I ran a cost comparison model for university that was actually comparing on-prem storage options versus public cloud storage options. And we did the math, and it came out that the PowerScale was less than a penny a gig per month to serve this particular file requirement. So significantly less expensive than file storage in the public cloud. So I mentioned the university, but we have customers in a bunch of different industries that leverage PowerScale for a number of different use cases. So, for example, I think it was last year or so, a city police force came and said that they were adding 500 additional cameras to the already existing camera fleet. And oh, by the way, those cameras that are already in place, those are getting replaced too. They're getting upgraded with higher resolution models. And so, increasing resolution, just increasing the number of cameras, all of that compounds to the type or the capacity, the amount of storage is required on the back end to support all that. This particular city, they already had PowerScale in place. And so they were able to just add a few nodes to grow their cluster by hundreds of terabytes without changing anything else in the workflow to meet this demand that was kind of just dropped on them and say, hey, by the way, these 500 cameras are coming, so figure it out. And then a completely different use case. We work with a healthcare provider that was running PACS, which is a medical imaging application. They were using block storage to support PACS, and they wanted to move to a vendor-neutral archive. And so if you're not familiar with a VNA, it's just a way to allow you to store these medical images in a non-proprietary format. So it gives them a lot of flexibility in the future to change out PACS systems and not being locked into the same provider like they had been for the last many years. And so again, kind of regardless of the scale of your file footprint, right? Because you can start small, but then scale to like I said, 180 plus petabytes in a single file system. PowerScale can be the ideal storage solution to grow right along with you. Excuse me. So I talked about PowerStore, for kind of being more of a block application platform. When that's paired with PowerScale for file data, it's the perfect combo to support, really any kind of demanding storage requirement. Both PowerStore and PowerScale have a lot of redundancies built in, right? There's no single point of failure, of course, and we'd never design anything with a single point of failure. But it's still kind of recommended best practice to have a off storage array copy of your data. And there might have been a comment in the chat about tape, but and that's where on the right is where we see data domain. So data domain is a purpose-built backup appliance, and I don't know if that's me or okay.
Okay.
So it's a purpose-built backup appliance, a disk-based appliance, right? So it's not tape. But data domain's architecture ensures that your data is recoverable in the event of any kind of data loss or corruption from your primary storage. So it's available as a standalone appliance. So it works with just about every third-party backup software on the planet. but it's also available packaged with Dell data protection software. So right now, Dell has Avamar, which has been around for quite a long time, and then PowerProtect Data Manager, which is quite a bit newer. In a lot of the specifically for VMware environments, PowerProtect Data Manager has a lot of the kind of new R&D focus. But Avamar is available with Data Domain, and it's called the IDPA, but that's the Integrated Data Protection Appliance. And then the PowerProtect Data Manager, which is that kind of the newer offering, is the DM5500. So that's the image that you see on the screen. And so the reason that you might want your backup software and data domain like hardware kind of all bundled together is again same kind of a concept as like HCI. It's just fewer components to manage. It's just a single appliance. And so whenever you're updating one, like you don't have to check is this version of software going to write to that version of hardware and whatnot, right? It's just a single package to stay up to date. The last thing I'll say about data domain is ransomware. Ransomware has been in the news this week. I think it's in the news basically every single day, and it is a constant threat, regardless of the size of the industry that you're in. And data domain actually plays a key role in a solution that Dell has called the Cyber Recovery Vault. So I don't know if you're familiar with Sheltered Harbor. Sheltered Harbor is a consortium of financial institutions that got together and basically said, here is a list of requirements for a data protection solution, to meet that can guarantee recovery from a ransomware attack. And so they came out with the Sheltered Harbor certification. And so the Cyber Recovery Vault, this solution that includes data domain, is the world's first ransomware recovery solution to reach full certification from Sheltered Harbor. So again, I know that's kind of high level and it's a lot of information. Happy to dive in deeper, on a follow up.
Yeah, and so we spend a lot of time here discussing the benefits and considerations of having an on-premises data center. We went over some of the data storage types that you can have that can go in there, but then also you can do all this in a colo as well. And I know our engineers that are doing installs love going into colos. There's so much space, it's nice and cool. They're not having to crawl under somebody's desk to try to get stuff installed and run cables. And there's definitely, you can do all this in the colo as well. And there are definitely some benefits of renting out a colo space, besides our engineers being happy with it. But colos house many different organizations' IT infrastructures. So they have to supply these multiple layers of redundancy. You just can't get it in an on-prem solution at a reasonable price. And so like multiple ISPs, power redundancies, even some of them have giant generators outside they like to show off. But however you pay for this, you got to pay for this extra layer of redundancy. And you can see also potential latencies back to your office. So you really have to look into the benefits, but then also look at the extra expenses a colo may bring to your organization.
So, I've worked with countless customers that have, decided to house equipment at a colo for a number of reasons. And I'd say one of the most common is actually to have a secondary data center. So, right now we're in the heart of hurricane season, and Davenport Group has a lot of customers on and near coastal regions. So I've worked with a bunch of our coastal customers that have selected a colo, that's just further inland. So that way they have like a business continuity plan in place in case they lose power for days, weeks at a time. Personally, I live in Tornado Alley, so I've worked with clients that have like a primary data center on-prem, and then a tornado is devastating, but not as widespread, is like maybe a hurricane. And so what's common here is they'll have like like I said, a data center on-prem and then a colo just across town, because typically that would be out of the path of at least the same tornado. And when you have your kind of primary and secondary both within a metro region, you can do some pretty interesting things if you have like the bandwidth and latency connecting those sites. Things like active kind of stretch cluster availability of workloads. So think kind of near zero type recovery time objectives. But a lot of customers don't necessarily have the same type of RTO or RPO requirements. And so, we work with a lot of customers that have colos across state lines. I mean, this is very common. So Davenport Group has actually recently partnered with TierPoint. You're probably familiar with TierPoint. You probably have a TierPoint, or at least aware of where a TierPoint location is. I mean, they're a national provider of colo facilities. And so we've partnered with TierPoint to be able to provide a simplified consumption for our clients. And so what that means is, whenever you have a project that requires new hardware, and you also need a space to put it, we can help package that together and deliver just a single statement that includes hardware, software, and then whether it's on-prem or to colo, we can put everything together in a single solution to make it just easy for you.
Yeah. And that's what Davenport Group does. We focus on that relationship with our customers. So we want to make things easy for you. But now let's get into cloud, because that's what comes up all the time. And I hear it from the C-levels from them and say, like, Ben, why don't we just move all this to the cloud? I mean, raise the hands of those that are on the camera here. How many of y'all have heard that from your higher ups? But the first thing, yeah, I see a bunch of virtual raised hands. Thanks, Doug. And the first thing I bring up in these kinds of conversations is that a cloud is simply just a data center ran by someone else. Whether it's Microsoft with Azure, Google, AWS, or even like a hosted application, that's really all it is. And if you're going to be running workloads and storing your data in a cloud, you have to be comfortable with that. You also have to be comfortable with, hey, if that cloud is down, you're relying on that service to bring it back up. There's no, hey, John or Gary, get this application back online. Well, it's kind of out of your control there. But when we say cloud, there's also different ways to move your data to the cloud. It could be just like a lift and shift of virtual machines from on-prem to someone like Azure or AWS, or it could be moving an on-prem application to that application provider's cloud or their hosted solution. And so, or just moving on-prem Exchange to O365. You can also look at moving some Windows VM you have on-prem that's running things like SQL. It has a OS there on-prem. It has a SQL application, all that stuff on-prem. Well, you can also look at running that SQL as a service instance in Azure, and that could make a lot of sense. It all comes down to the data and the workload as to where is the best place to put it. That's where our team of experts is really collaborating with your team on what is going to be the best option for your organization. I mean, I had one customer that in particular, we were designing this solution for them where they ingested like millions of documents that went through OCR, then sorting, and then they would extract the data from these like scanned documents. Well, we built out like an on-prem solution, or actually it's going to be a colo infrastructure. And to do that and to support those workloads was going to be like $2 million of hardware and lots of management, lots of maintenance, just to support these ingests of data that happen like every few months. Well, they actually went to their development team and they built out like a temporary cloud setup where they rented out these cloud services, like thousands of servers that would handle that ingest, and it would just take a few hours. And it ended up just being around like, I think $5,000 or something for that ingest period. They paid, pennies on what an on-prem solution. So that cloud services instance made a ton of sense. A lot of dollars and cents there. So another thing is, because we provide cloud solutions, when we quote that out to our in options, I always remind the customer of this. The estimate I'm giving you is likely the lowest bill you will ever see from a cloud instance, because you're going to use it more. Just like when you first started with your on-prem virtual infrastructure, you started just adding servers like this and that. Same thing happens when you get into the cloud. unless you change your workloads or make adjustments to the way your workloads run in the cloud environment, it's just going to get more and more expensive. And hey, it's that operating model. It may work with your business. The way that you get revenue, the way you spend money, it may work in that rotation. But that's where you really need to decide, and that's where our team can really help out there and see if cloud is a solution. One place we've really seen a great use of cloud is around backup, because it's not only the minimum amount of resources in the cloud, like that cheap and deep storage, like S3 buckets or uh, you know Azure Blob Storage in that public cloud providers. It can also provide some extra hardening of those backups, where like that backup data can't even be deleted by you in the form of like immutable copies is what you'll hear a bunch when it talks about backup and backup in the cloud solution. And obviously that protects against things like ransomware, encrypting that data or deleting that data. So the cloud options that you are most familiar with are going to be, I've said them a few times, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. But then also when we talk cloud, you got to think about O360, these cloud applications like O365 and Salesforce. And I'll tell you, just from my 20 years experience of doing this, there is no one better to work with to help you with anything O365, heck, anything Microsoft than Davenport Group. We have a complete team of Microsoft certified engineers, and we can really handle any O365 or Microsoft need that you can even come up with. So if you're just looking for advice and say, hey, we're in O365, we're doing this, I want to talk to somebody how to do this, reach out to us. Let us help you. Let us at least show you that we know what we're talking about. Maybe even get engaged on a services engagement where we can help you out with that, because I can hands down say there is no one better to help you out with any type of Microsoft solution.
So one that you might not be familiar with is right there in the middle is Davenport Group Cloud. So Davenport Group actually offers VMware as a service, so hosted VMware solutions. We've seen a lot of adoption using like VMware-based disaster recovery as a service. But we also have a cloud object storage. It doesn't have any kind of ingress or egress charges with it. So if you're familiar with cloud storage, like the S3 or the Azure Blob that Ben just mentioned, most clouds are going to actually charge not only on capacity, but actually also based on the number of like upload and download transactions. So, imagine like you're paying for capacity to keep a copy of your backup data in the cloud, but then, you have some sort of outage or some sort of issue you need to restore. So, but then you're charged even more to bring that data back on-prem. That's absolutely not the case with our Davenport Group Cloud storage. Under Davenport Group Cloud, we also just recently introduced our Davenport Group Private Cloud, which is powered by Apex. So this is a pretty unique offering where we can bundle infrastructure, colo if necessary, but also like managed security and then full infrastructure management services to allow like your team to focus on driving innovation through applications. And I just mentioned Apex, but if you're not familiar with Apex, Apex is Dell's newest portfolio of cloud offerings. And when I say cloud offering, it could be like a private cloud stack, like I just mentioned. They have consumption-based pricing models, or even the ability to leverage different Dell like file and block storage technologies in a hyperscaler environment like AWS or Azure. So Apex isn't just a single product, right? But it's like an entire suite of different technologies and consumption models.
So it's really up to you where you'd like to go from here. Where we typically go with data center or cloud data center needs is have you run live optics. I talked about that a little bit. We also can look deeper into your applications to see if they would fit some type of application as a service. We went over a lot today and different things for you to consider, or where you should put those workloads in your data. So where we want to go from here is we have experts to help you with your unique needs. So following this webinar, you'll hear from your account executive in your area. And I encourage you all to reach back out to your account executive and see where we can help there.
So, I mentioned Davenport Group Care pretty early in the presentation, but it is our managed services offering. We officially unveiled Davenport Group Care last year about this time, and we started off with Advise and Advise and Assist. Since then, we've expanded to offer full management as well. So over and over again, I talk to folks that really just don't have the time or the resources to maintain hardware, right? I don't need a show of hands, but how many people on the call, and just think to yourself, are still running server 2012 or 2012 R2 in your environment, right? I'm sure it's quite a few of you. And hopefully you are already aware that Microsoft support ends for 2012 on October 10th. So it's like 3 weeks from now. Who's still running vSphere 6.7? Right? I mean, we ran Live Optics a little bit ago and found an environment that was running 4.1, right? 4.1 is like, I don't know, 12 years old. But 6.7, did you know that like support for 6.7 has already ended? Right? It ended like last year at this time. And so, we know that this is still out there. And the reason is, y'all are just stretched too thin. And so that's exactly why we developed Davenport Group Care. So today, like I said, Davenport Group Care comes in 3 levels. So at the most basic level, which is Davenport Group Care Advise, will help keep your environment up to date. We'll have at least quarterly touch points where we're running health checks. And we take that Advise a step further with Advise and Assist, where we've included blocks of time where we'll help address issues that either come up during a health check, or if you just need, another set of hands with configuration work that needs to be done. But again, most recently, we introduced DG Manage, where we'll take full ownership of the maintenance of your stack, all the way to even up to the guest OS patching, if you decide you want that included. But Davenport Group Manage is really the one that's gaining the most interest, and it's because, like I just pointed out, a lot of people just don't have the time or resources to dedicate to managing infrastructure. So all of these levels are based on fixed pricing, and it's based on the actual assets in your environment. So you're not going to see like 15-minute type charges or nickel and dime charges for any of our managed services like you may have experienced in the past.
And your company may have use cases to store data across a combination of everything that we talked about today. So it's all based on your own business or organization's needs, desired outcomes, and budget. So don't try to figure it out on your own. Davenport Group is here to help. We've got all these experts to help you. We talked about a lot today, but we can always dive deeper into anything that we talked about today and where you can help put your data in the right place where it should live. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Anybody has any questions, feel free to come off mute or type your question in the chat group before we turn it over to Felipe here in a second. All right, so I guess we answered it all. Are you just churning and trying to think where to put that data as a result of it, or how do you get in touch with us? But hey, from here, I talked about connecting with your account executive. So we love to connect with you here. And we're actually offering an incentive to connect with us. Each of your account executives in your area will be reaching out to you. And if you meet with our team by Friday, October 27th, you're going to be entered in a chance to win a customized Yeti prize pack. You can see here, it's going to have all your favorite teams' logos on it. And it's pretty cool to have that, especially around the tailgate there. Actually, Brian, we have a question here in the chat from Michael. Talks about, do you work with groups that have an HCI solution with Nutanix? I know we've worked with some in the past. Yeah.
Typing up a response that yes, we have quite a few clients that have deployed Nutanix. And then I mentioned Davenport Group Cloud. One of our customers leveraging Davenport Group Cloud for DR as a service is actually they're I think it's 2 or 3 different Nutanix clusters that are all replicating to a centralized DR as a service offering that we're hosting for them. But it's VMware based, so it's not AHV. But yes, we can absolutely help with Nutanix.
Yeah, and Dennis, thanks for the recommendation there when you're thinking about AWS or Davenport Group Cloud and how the transactions with AWS was kind of a deal killer there. So, hey, I encourage you all to reach out to your account executive. We're going to get started. Felipe, are you ready on here to have us with Chef Treguet?
Hey there, it's actually Sarah today. So nice
Okay,
to
great.
see you all.
Awesome.
I'm not able to get my camera to work, unfortunately, but I know Treguet is on here and I am here to put everything in the chat and interact with the chat. So we are ready to go. And I see Chef Treguet getting everything ready. So she's going to be front and center and we'll just take it away.
Yeah, if I could do this. Okay. Hi, everyone. I have to figure out how to turn my camera around. All right. Are we ready to rock and roll? Is it on me now?
We are. Chef Treguet has
Yeah.
2 cameras. She has her main camera you can see, as well as the desktop or the chef top cam.
Yes. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to charcuterie class. I'm super excited because this is actually one of my favorite things to do. I absolutely love charcuterie. It's been around for so many years. For me, a charcuterie means togetherness, right? It's a moment where everyone can come around the table, try different things with each other. There may be things you've never seen before on the board and you just want to try it out. So that's kind of my take on charcuterie and why I love it so much, because it's so versatile. I actually travel the world and I do very large charcuteries, like 20 feet long charcuteries. So they're pretty fun. And today we're going to talk about placement. We're going to talk about mixing and matching ingredients. And we're going to do a lot of fun stuff today. So first things first, you guys, I want you to take out everything out of your kit. All right, you'll see that you have a piece of white parchment paper. That's kind of like going to act as your board. You may also have a charcuterie board in there as well. So you can do it on your board or you can do it on the paper and save your board for later, whichever you like to do. The concept of this paper is because kind of what I do when I go to these events is I'll wrap the table in like a plastic wrap and then I fill it up with food. So you should see no corners of the table. It should be food everywhere from corner to corner. So you can do that with this, because at the end of the day, at the end of those parties, I will pull the plastic wrap from under the table and roll everything up and push it into the trash. That is the other thing that I love about charcuterie is, think about if you have like holidays and you have your family over, you can pretty much put anything on the charcuterie with the exception of cooked meat. So imagine not having all those dishes and just being able to roll it on out of there. All right. So next thing in your bag, in your box, you have some semi-hard cheese. You have some chocolate. We got some figs. We have some honey. We also have some soft cheese, some sopressata cheese, some olives, and then the 2 odd men out. Oh, also crackers. And then the 2 odd men out are the onion and the apple cider vinegar. And I know you're wondering, like, why is there a whole onion in my charcuterie box? But it is because we are going to learn how to make pickled onions. And so this pickling recipe that I'm going to give you guys and show you guys, you can pretty much use it to pickle anything that you would like. Some of my favorite items to pickle are asparagus or green beans and things like that. So first things first, we're gonna take your onion and go ahead and get the skin off, but don't throw the skin away. Okay, we'll start with the onion. So by the end of the class, you can actually have a product, and you can get you a small saucepan. Okay, and then what I like to do is get the skin off. But again, don't throw the skin away. I'm gonna tell you what to do with the skin. You know, a lot of times people often tend to ask me, how is it that how do I cut onions without crying? And so the key to cutting onions without crying is a cold onion and a sharp knife. All right, so we're going to slice these onions, and you can slice them however you like. There's no rhyme or reason. It's really just your palate and what you like, right? I like thicker pickled onions on like just to eat, and I like thinner pickled onions on my sandwich. So it just depends on how you want it. Cut it however you like. It's going to pickle the same way no matter how you slice it. All right, so we'll get that in there. Now with these onion skins, I'm gonna head to my freezer and I am going to grab, if it's in here, did I use it already? I think I did. All right, well, I used it already, but what I normally like to do is take my scraps and add them to a Ziploc bag. Now, what you're gonna do throughout the week is you're gonna keep continuously adding your scraps to your Ziploc bag, okay? So if you have like onion scraps, if you have the end pieces of asparagus, if you have, the end pieces of bell peppers, I think the only thing I wouldn't put in my stock bag would be like potato skins, and starchy skins like that. Okay, because what we're gonna do is throughout the week, as you're saving your scraps, your ends to your carrots or celery or onions or whatnot, I'm gonna just keep it in a bag and put it in the freezer. And once that bag is full, you're gonna put that bag in a pot, fill that pot with water, season it up, boil it, strain the liquid, and then the liquid that's left behind is gonna be your vegetable stock. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna add a half a cup of water. We're going to do 3/4 cups of apple cider vinegar, and that's going to be your entire jar of apple cider vinegar. Okay. Then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of salt. And 1 tablespoon of sugar.
Chef Trigay, I see you're very accurate with your measurements there. I
You
love
know, I tell you, my grandmother never measured. I just kind of get in there. I know with my eyeball, but I like to tell you the measurements because I know everyone is not a chef, but I'm pretty good with the eye, if I must say so myself.
I imagine so.
So you guys follow those directions, and they are in the chat. She's putting all of this stuff in the chat. So if you need to go back and look at the measurements, no problem. You can easily do that. All right, so let's run through that again before we get into the charcuterie. All right, because now we have it on a boil. Okay, we're gonna have that boil for about just until it comes to a roaring boil, and then you're gonna lower that to like a medium simmer, okay, for the last 25 minutes. So it's a full 30 minutes, 5 minutes at a roaring boil, and the last 25 minutes on a simmer, and then once we're done, we'll put them in this mason jar. Okay, I like to use a mason jar because I don't know if your grandmother was like my grandmother, but we would have mason jars full of vegetables and fruit everywhere, and they last forever. So as long as you have this mason jar, okay, with the top, as you see, it's a 2-part top. This is what's going to keep your items fresh the longest. I mean, these things can last a year, 6 months. I mean, you name it, the vinegar is going to keep it, and then the lid is also going to keep it a bit longer, okay? So going over it again, we chopped our onion, we took the skin off, we put the skin in our bag for the freezer. So later on, we can fill that up with all of our goodies, all of our extra scraps, and make vegetable stock. And then from there, we put that in the pot with 3/4 cups of apple cider vinegar, which is the entire bottle, a half a cup of water, 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar. Bring it to a roaring boil, and then turn it down to simmer for the last 25 minutes. And then we're going to put it in a mason jar. And again, you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and ask. It's no problem. So while that's going, you guys, we're going to start to begin our placement, okay? So if you guys should have 2 little plates or bowls in your box, I'm going to use these 2 little clear bowls, and I kind of try to create some a center, right? So for me, with the center, I'm going to have my soft cheese be my center. Okay, so I put that soft cheese right in the center, and then now I can either, put my 2 bones diagonal, I can do side to side, whichever way I want, but ultimately the design will go intertwined in between and around these bowls on wherever I put them. Now, when I'm doing a large event or having friends and family over, I tend to try to do veggies on one side, And then do the same thing on the other side that I did for the veggies, but I'll add meat. So that way, if you have people that they don't really want to touch meat, they don't want meat touching their food, they can feel comfortable because you'll start with that side and you'll do your meat last. That way your hands never touched meat while it was touching their food, and everybody's happy. So first things first, I'll start with our cheese, semi-hard cheese. And I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can kind of take one cheese and make 2 items, 2 dishes out of that one cheese. Okay, so first things first, let me slide this over some so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so see here, I'll take this and cut it in half. So first thing I'll do, got a little onion skin. First thing what I do is break this up. Now this is gonna give you like an artesian look, like really rustic kind of look. You see how those jagged, fun little edges, and you can rip it as many times as you like. Okay. Just rip that up, get pieces. You can even cut it into cubes, but I like to just kind of rip it up a little bit because I like for it to have that like rustic look. Okay. So that's one side. Okay. Then the other side, what I like to do, no, the other side, what I'd like to do is take the cheese and then I'm just gonna slice the cheese and then shingle them on top of each other. Okay, so now you see we pretty much have one cheese with 2 styles. And then we're gonna even take it up another notch in just a moment. All right, now we have this almost like a domino effect with the cheese. Okay. So now essentially we kind of have 2 sides. Okay. Then from there, I'm gonna take the honey and just take a little and just drizzle it right over this cheese here. And I also, when I put the honey on the board, I like to just leave the whole little mini jar on there, even if I have a big jar, because the jars are cute and they add like a cute little aesthetic. Okay. And then I'm gonna take that fig jam. I want to put, now you can do this 2 ways. You can just do a little dollop in the middle. So as they're dipping into the cheese, they'll get a little bit of jam and a little bit of cheese. And this is also a way to help your guests try something different, right? A lot of people, they see the cheese, they see the jam, they see the honey, they see the chocolate, and they don't know what to do with it. So this is kind of like your way to direct them on what to do, right? So either that way or just mix it on up for them. And so this is going to be kind of like a fig cheddar, which is absolutely delicious. Okay, and just whip that up and mix that in like so. Okay. All right. Now, I think I'm going to do the chocolate next. Okay. And then I'm just going to break up a few pieces of chocolate and put it in different areas. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Boom, boom. All right. Now, I'll take my olives and just use the same spoon. Take my olives. I'm gonna go right in with my olives. And I'll save my other bowl for the onions when they're done. Okay. Then we'll go with the sausage. Now, sausage, you can do it a couple of ways. As I said before, you can either give it a little slice, slice a few medallions, and do a slice and leave a log. That, and we can dice it if we like. That, dice. Then we can just do a few pieces of meat here. Now, the last thing we have is going to be our crackers. Now, when I'm utilizing crackers, I kind of like to just put the crackers in the negative spaces. So that means like any space where it's kind of like, I don't know what to put right here. Don't worry, the crackers will always come through and save the day. And you can put a few crackers there. And we can put a few crackers here. Okay, and then that's pretty much the board with the items that you have in your box. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things to kind of help you boost and take your charcuterie to the next level. Before we move on, if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I want to challenge you guys. I want you guys, first of all, a couple of things. Are we going to do the pop quiz today?
The pop quiz.
Are we doing the trivia?
Oh, I can pull some trivia up, I think.
Yeah, let's whip that out.
All right.
All right. While she's doing that, you guys, I'm going to challenge you guys. I want you guys to go in your refrigerators and I want you to grab things to put on your charcuterie and I want to see what's your next level. Now, here's a couple of things. Remember these things, that anything can go on a charcuterie with the exception of cooked meats. And the reason is because charcuterie is meant to sit out and be nitpicked upon, basically, right? And we can't have cooked meats just sitting out there because after a while it'll reach the temperature danger zone and nobody wants to get sick, right? So that's why they always have the cured meat. But outside of that, you can pretty much put whatever you want: fruit, veggies, nuts, peppers, dips. One of my favorite dips is goat cheese and pesto mixed together. The bomb. One of my favorite veggies to eat, because I love to do raw veggies, is corn. I love raw corn on my charcuterie. And people, I just love raw corn in general. If you haven't tried it, trust me, try it. It's way better than cooked corn. It's so sweet and crunchy and just amazing. Okay, so just go ahead and try to see what you have in your refrigerator that you can add to your board. I have a few heirloom tomatoes here, so I'll add a few of those.
Hey, Chef, I have a couple of trivia questions. I'll go ahead and say one, and if you know it, feel free to shout out or put it in the chat.
Perfect.
All right, are we ready for the first one?
All right, let's go.
All right, in what century was charcuterie invented? Was it the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th? In what century was charcuterie invented? Okay, we have Mike coming in saying the 16th century. Eric agrees with 16th. Okay, Jim says 15th. We have Dave with 18th. Give it a couple more seconds. It's kind of a mixed bag here, just like a charcuterie board, really. A mix of answers. All right. Madeline says 15th. All right, everybody. If you guessed the 16th century, you are incorrect. It is the 15th century. Congratulations. Oh, wow. Eric sent a photo of his charcuterie board so far. It looks amazing. I love the circle, the round.
Nice. Looking good. Looking good. Looking good. And I'm going to go around and take a look at everybody's too. Another thing I'm going to show you guys really quickly. I added, as you see here, I added some nuts to my board. I also added a few heirloom tomatoes. And, you know, another fun thing that I like to do are cheese balls. And especially with Halloween coming up, there's like a lot of fun stuff you can do with cheese balls. Let's see if I can
Hey,
find
Chef, I
it.
just want to confirm for the pickled onion, it's 2 tablespoons salt, correct?
Correct. Correct. So I have a little pimento cheese here. I'm just gonna wet my hands a little bit. And I wet my hands so it'll be kind of easier to handle the cheese, right? So I have that, now it's in a ball. And then I'm gonna take it and roll it in walnuts. Okay. Take it and roll it in walnuts. And then once it's rolled in the walnuts, you can just kind of take it and press those walnuts in a bit more. And look at that, you got your little walnut cheese ball. And you can put that, put it here. You can do that. For Halloween, you can do kind of like the same thing and roll it around in like some black sesame seeds and use pretzels as the spider legs. So that would be something fun for you and the kiddies to try. Another fun one for, I'm gonna talk about Halloween because that's the first holiday that's coming up, right? Is the meat hand, where you kind of just take your hand and draw your hand out and then cut that out and set it on your board. And then just, you can take like a prosciutto and rub a thick layer of cream cheese and have that cream cheese, of course, mixed with like some garlic powder, onion powder, herb, and then roll it tight so it looks like a finger and do 5. And then put a glob of that cream cheese mixture in the middle for the hand portion, and then cover that with prosciutto. It's a really fun little thing, especially for the kids, you know, when they want to do something fun, or shoot, even for a little adult party, you know, why not? I also have hummus, because I just always have hummus. It's a must around here. So I could add a little bit of hummus here. Okay. So that's that. And I think that's it for me. I think that's it for my board. I'll show you guys the complete board. Let's see. There's my board. You guys see this? Wait.
Yes, looks beautiful, Chef. I see some really nice boards out there too.
All right, let's go. I'm ready to see them. Put this back up here. All right. So I have to get a little closer. Or the chef should have her glasses on, but she doesn't. All right, let's see. Valerie, can we make this bigger? Can I make this bigger? Valerie, let's see. That looks really good.
Thank you.
Yes, that's perfect. Oh, that looks really nice. You have the strawberries, that glistening. Is this your first time making a charcuterie?
For me, no.
Okay, I was gonna say it can't be. It looks too good. It looks too
Yeah.
good. There's no way.
I grabbed some strawberries from outside because I have a little garden outside. So.
Oh, really? Because I was gonna say those strawberries look absolutely perfect. I'm just trying to figure out, like, where did you get them from? That looks great. Did you learn anything new today? Even though you've done charcuterie before, have you learned something new today?
Like putting the condiments on top and mixing them in the way you did to kind of suggest this is what you do and go ahead and do it for them. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great idea.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Love it. Good job. That looks amazing.
Thank you.
Looks amazing. All right, let's see. Benji. Benji and the sous chef over there. I know the sous chef. She did all the work. She did all the work.
Oh
She's so
yeah,
pretty.
she did all the work over here, helping me out with all the slicing.
Nice. Is this you guys' first time doing a charcuterie together?
Yeah, I think so. First time together for sure.
Have you done one on your own before?
I've helped with some. I'm usually just in charge of slicing all the cheese.
Nice,
That's
nice.
about it.
Did you learn something new today about charcuterie?
Yeah, definitely. I like the breaking up of the cheese to make it look a more rustic out there, and then just kind of doing the same thing on either side, just kind of balancing it out there. So we got a great setup here in the kitchen, so it makes it real good for charcuterie boards for sure.
Yes, I love it. That looks good. Good job. What's your name, little sous chef? Oh, I couldn't hear you. Nope.
Lydia is her name.
Oh, Lydia. Okay,
Yeah,
you are gorgeous, Lydia. Good job. That is beautiful.
she's a big Food Network fan, so she was really excited to meet you.
Ah, well, it's so good to meet you. Hopefully, one day I'll be judging you on one of these kids' cooking shows because you have what it takes. I can see. I can see. Oh, there's another one.
Both of them are coming in here.
Hi. She's like, so
She said
so are
hi.
you like me? I have two boys. One is there to eat, and the other one is there to help. My oldest son is like, just let me know when the food is done. My youngest
They're
son, he wants to help.
Yeah, the older one, Lydia, she's definitely the helper in the kitchen, and but they both love it so much, and they're big
Oh,
fans of Food Network, that's for sure.
oh, well, I have to tell all my friends that you guys said, hey, Lydia, and what's your name?
Evie.
Evie, that
Mm-hmm.
Lydia and Evie said hello. I'll definitely let them know to be looking out for y'all because you're on
Yes.
your way. You're on
Yes.
your way. Awesome. Good job. Who else do we
Thank you.
have? Does anybody else want to show us your board? Does anybody else want to show us your board? I know they look great. I love to see them. All right, you guys. Well, let's just go over this thing one more time. Then let's make sure we have everything under control. Our onions should just be about done. So I am going to just take it and put it in my mason jar. Wash off a spoon. Okay. And get that right in there. And you guys, make sure you come back to class, to my little two sous chefs. You got to tell your dad to tell somebody to make sure you get to my class. I have a pumpkin carving class for Halloween, which is really fun. And we will do pumpkin carving and make pumpkin pie from scratch. Like you'll make the dough from scratch, everything. So it's really, really fun. And of course, we have the barbecue class, taco class. There's so many fun classes. So you guys make sure you come on back by and test it out with us, and try a few more classes. And if you guys want
How
to,
do
go ahead.
how do we sign up for the pumpkin class? We're big pumpkin fans here.
That's your cue. Where's my sidekick? That's your cue. You're going to go to
Sarah?
Hungry VCX. Is Sarah there? Did she leave?
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here. I'm putting
uh,
our social media in the chat.
okay, awesome. There you go. So, yep, you would just click the link in the social media chat and just say, hey, I want to take that pumpkin carving class, and you'll be in the class with us. It is really fun, you guys, because we do pumpkin carving. So our designs, we do all kind of. One time, somebody did a cat. It was crazy. So we have a good time. And we'll even put little lights in it at the end so it lights up spooky at night. So that's kind of fun. And of course, making the pie is fun. And yeah, because you'll be surprised how many people haven't made pie crust from scratch before, and it's super easy and very fun. So definitely, definitely make sure you guys come back for that class. And then also you guys make sure you guys head over to Amazon and grab my cookbook, Kitchen Conversations with Chef Tregay, because there are so many fun recipes in there for you guys to try out. Make sure you follow myself at Chef Tregay and Hungry at Virtual VCX on Instagram. And make sure you tag us if you post your charcuterie, because I always repost. If you tag me in anything, I will repost it, because all of the supporters and fans, they love to see what you guys are doing and try it out for themselves. So definitely make sure you repost and tag us on Instagram and send it right over to us, and we will go from there. Do we have any questions before we get out of here? Sarah, do we have any more trivia before we get out of here?
We have one departing trivia, Chef.
Okay, ready.
All right, here we go. Which of the following cheeses is not a soft cheese? Brie, feta, ricotta, or cheddar? Which of the following cheeses is not a soft cheese? Brie, feta,
I'm going to say
ricotta,
cheddar
cheddar.
too.
Cheddar.
All right, we're ending on a high note. You all got it.
They said, you're not going to beat me this time. I didn't get the 15, but I'm going to get the cheddar. That's awesome. Well, I think, Sarah, do we have anything else? What do we?
That's it. Everyone did an awesome job. Thank you for having us. Great job, Chef. The boards look amazing.
Yes, I
Yeah, thanks a
absolutely
bunch,
loved
Chef
it.
Tregay.
No problem. I had some. Oh, look at the pup, pup, pup. Hi. What kind of pup is that?
She is a miniature golden doodle, and she's
Oh
7
my
weeks
God.
old. So a tiny little
Oh,
bit.
new baby.
Somebody's proud about her new puppy, that's for sure.
I know she should be, because that dog is gorgeous. Girl, you're going to look so cute with that dog, walking around with that dog. You can wear your little outfits and dress your dog up like you. That's what I do. I have a King Charles Cocker Spaniel. It's the dog from Lady and the Tramp. So she walks
so cute.
around with her long ears, and we just look cute together all the time. So it's a joy. It's a joy.
Yes.
All right. Well, I had so much fun with you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys at my pumpkin carving class. Now, we'll be there a little longer for pumpkin carving class, because we're going to make pie and carve and have a lot of fun. So I'll see you guys next time. Yes. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks
Thank
everybody
you.
for joining today, and we'll be getting in touch with you. I hope you enjoyed the time with Chef Tregay. I know I sure did. And thank you for joining our webinar today. Everybody have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Enjoy your charcuterie board.